What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today is Best Served Podcast 206, and we are talking hot sauce love with Jojo Collins of Jojo Sriracha. Jojo,
hey, y'all, how's
thank
it
you for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm excited because you're in the kitchen. That always gets me fired up because I know you're either going to get started on some work or you're finishing up work or you're in the middle of it. But I know that there's some good stuff happening in the kitchen there. So yeah, Jojo Collins, CEO, founder, hustler, entrepreneur, hot sauce aficionado, Jojo Sriracha, and you all are based in Pueblo, Colorado. Tell people, for anybody who doesn't know, Jojo Sriracha, what can they expect from your company?
They can expect a hot sauce that is unlike any other. And that kind of goes back to why I started making Jojo's, is I wanted a really high quality hot sauce. And so in the absence of, fillers or tons of salt and sugar, you get to taste the depth of deeply fermented chili peppers, which most people don't even really know that it's a fruit. So you really get to get that flavor explosion all at once.
Yes, people do not know that chilies are a fruit. That's fascinating because as a fermenter, that's going to change the way that you approach that product. I think that's very interesting. Sriracha. Let's tell people about Sriracha. I think now it basically, people have the Sriracha, the Hong Kong hot sauce on their keychains and stuff. It's become iconic. People are wearing Sriracha t-shirts around. But to your point, and look, I love the red hot cock sauce or whatever the hell that the counterculture name for that is. Yet things like sodium bisulfite and xanthan gum, I'm like, man, what is that? And then I researched xanthan gum. I was like, oh, it was created for deep earth drilling to gelatinize mud so it didn't fall in the hole. And now we put that in food. I was like, that sounds awesome.
You don't want to eat that?
That sounds amazingly delicious. Let's do some more of that.
And mad respect to David Tran too. If you really want to nerd out, watch Sriracha the documentary. We're in it from way back in the day. Totally American dream story.
Agree. And look, it's just we need to respect people that pave the way, and then say we also want to do something different. And so you wanted a high quality hot sauce that spoke to the ethos that you had for focusing really on the fruit, focusing on the fermentation. And then you really got to find a way to focus on the product and the producers themselves. And I want to touch on that. So the Sriracha itself, the OG Sriracha, and we'll taste this in a little bit and get into it, but you got the Sriracha here. This kind of led the way. How did this product specifically come about? Because you said you wanted a high quality hot sauce. You didn't say you wanted a high quality Sriracha. Why was it Sriracha that ended up being kind of the flagship?
Well, kind of like you, I mean, I was obsessed with the Hoi Fong brand since I was a teenager. And then I took a yoga teacher training as I got older. And one of the first things that they had us do was go on a series of cleanses. And it was really a transitional period in my life of just kind of growing up and looking at what I was eating and trying to be healthier in my lifestyle. And, here I am with my beloved squeeze bottle of Sriracha, and I turn that baby around and I see the ingredients that you were talking about, preservative, high quantities of salt, lots of sugar. And in one particular cleanse that we were doing, I took refined sugar out of my diet for a month. So that was like a no Sriracha month, which sounds terrible. I'm like, no way, I got to make my own. So I would just totally started nerding out in the kitchen. I had never made hot sauce before. I had never fermented anything before. I just knew it was made out of red chilies, and I kind of started there and got to work, and that was it.
Necessity is the mother of all invention. I love that.
Absolutely.
Invention and innovation, right? I think that is such a key thing. You had a necessity. You cannot go a whole month without your beloved hot sauce, yet you had to go a whole month without that beloved hot sauce. So you just had to solve a problem. Anytime that you're solving a problem, I think there's a huge opportunity. So you made the product. Was it awesome, or did you struggle and clumsily find your way? Were there a couple big mishaps at the beginning? Tell us about that.
My favorite mishap that I go back to is I remember I was blending some kind of funky mixture of chilies in the kitchen, and it just literally blew up, chili in the face, all over the kitchen, which I mean, it still happens. but that was definitely like, it got messy, and fermentation is weird. So it worked, it didn't work. And there was a lot less information on the internet
Yeah.
at that particular time too. So I was really just kind of making it up as we went along. But I'm a nerd, and like, I love taking good notes. So I was really like writing down exactly what I was doing. So it's kind of easy to like see where I needed to go and get it there pretty quickly.
Oh, right when you said that, instantly, like before you even said it, I'm doing this because I just feel you. I remember the first time I said, could we do kimchi in cryovac bags? And we vacuum sealed bags. I was like, would that speed it up? And then, I don't know, a week later, I came into a dishwasher cleaning what looked like brain shrapnel off of the ceiling because the bag had exploded and it looked like a CSI scene. So I had all the anxiety and empathy for the moment that you're talking about, which it still probably happens, as you mentioned. So I love that. Give us a timeline a little bit. So when is this that you first make your very first batch of hot sauce? What year is that?
So it was about 2010.
Okay.
And I was living in Denver. That's when I was doing my yoga teacher training. And I had planned to move to New York. So I kind of lived in California, Colorado, and New York. Those are all kind of home to me. And I was going back to New York to live in the city and kind of have that experience. And so, of course, like, what else are you going to do when you go to Brooklyn after your yoga teacher training and you make hot sauce, but start a small batch Sriracha company?
The most Brooklyn thing you can imagine.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a total hipster move. So I incorporated in 2012, like officially, but it was about a year of experimenting, and then a year of like really like figuring out how do I find a commercial kitchen, getting my licenses and all that straight so that I could actually go into production.
Yeah, let's stay there for a second, because a lot of people watching this, have that one product, have that one recipe that just, it's fire, and they want to build a company around it. Except so often we know everything about the product and nothing about the business, nothing about the production, the manufacturing, the licensing, all of those pieces. And take good notes. Carlos, throw that up. Take good notes. That is like what you need to do when you're an entrepreneur. You need to go and ask a shitload of questions. Every question, and even the question that you don't know, you're going to ask 7 questions that somebody else gives you an answer that leads to another question. So I really appreciate the mentality. That is absolutely super, super important. So for people, there you go. Take good notes. Step number 1. So let's go there a little bit, and I know that, mentorship is something that's important to you on both sides of the equation. So I know you've had this conversation with many people on the startup side and given them fair warning, told them, don't even think about it. You're not ready for it. Any of those things. Give us a couple of the high ticket items that you're focused on when you're saying, here's what you need to think about if you're starting your own company.
So, when I'm telling my story about Jojo's, one of the things that always differentiate is around the field of food production, because it's different than like making jewelry, which you can do in your basement safely and, ship it to customers. Like they're not eating it, they're not consuming it. And so there's a certain level of seriousness that you have to be at in order to be a food producer. And that everything comes at a cost. So like I was saying before, like the commercial kitchen, the licensing, all the equipment, your different, your scheduled process. And so kind of like what you were saying, one of the great things about being in Brooklyn and starting the business is there's so many people. So I just got to work figuring out, who can I ask about these products? Who else is doing sauces like mine? So for example, I met this awesome gal. Her name's Heidi Tickle. She actually lives in Denver now, but we lived right down the street from each other in Brooklyn. In the Sriracha documentary, I filmed that on her rooftop of her apartment. And she was just this badass babe. She was making a product called pickle sauce at the time. And she was one of those people that like just completely like gives of herself. And so she's like, here's what I know, like check out this spreadsheet, call this guy. This is the jar company I'm using. Here's what my process looks like. Here's what that just really helps propel the nitty gritty, especially around food, because it's like you were talking about, like sort of like you don't know what you don't know, and I didn't know anything, and so to just have like some kind of foundation to go off of was really, really helpful. And I also took it was called Workshop in Business Opportunities. Weibo course, which was a 16-week business course. You could be anywhere from like conception to like, production. There was a small group of us in classes all throughout the boroughs. And every week you would sort of take on a different aspect of business. And at the end, you would basically have a business plan together. And I had a really, really awesome instructor. Her name is Deirdre Lavelle. Hello. Talk about another badass babe who was just like, what are your numbers? Like, she'd be on our homework.
Yes.
Like, oh, you missed this. You got to go back. And, she was the one that tells you, like, when it comes down to it, you tell your customer, do you want this product? Cash or check. If not, like, move along. Just really like got us thinking in the business terms. So that was like the compliment that I really needed, not just to figure out like, how do you make the product, but then how do you figure out if it's profitable? What kind of, revenue streams are you looking at? And so just kind of kept building and building on that network, and living in a place that was so dense made that a lot easier.
Mentorship matters. That is
totally does.
So fundamental. Mentorship matters. It truly, truly does. And if you've been given, you better also give back into that ecosystem. I think that's very important, and clearly something that's important to you, because you don't know what you don't know. And when we're working in restaurants, especially, so many people watching are kind of on that restaurant path, on the hotel, food and beverage path. We get so fixated on these products, and that's important. Yet the product can potentially be commoditized. The story and your ability to execute, the two sides, kind of your why and then your how, right? That's so important, how you go about doing that. And so somebody that pushes you to ask all those questions, I think is really, really important, because I know you tell people the Sriracha, that's the easy part. Like, that's
real.
the fun part. That's the, like, you're hanging out right now in the kitchen being like, therapy. I just get to make hot sauce and nothing else. And so I really appreciate that. Anything else on mentorship? This is really good stuff. I want people to siphon as much superpower from you as possible.
I think it's important. And I think that what really struck me were the people that gave of themselves willingly. And I think it's easy to kind of get into like a competitive mind frame. Like, I was coming up where lots of other hipster small food products were happening in Brooklyn. And it was like, listen, we're so tiny compared to big food industry. And like, we're all out here trying to hustle and, fight the good fight. So it makes more sense for us to work together, share our resources, share our knowledge. And so I've always just tried to be in that space. Like, yeah, you want to hear about, what I do and how I do it. Like, absolutely. So it's kind of like that pay it forward. Don't hold it back. Don't be small. Don't be competitive, because that's right. I don't think that's really going to get you anywhere.
No, it comes from this. We have this like scarcity mindset, or we're like in survival mode versus abundance and like investing in your own growth. And that usually means empowering the other people around you, because that's always going to come back. So I really appreciate that. I'm so glad we got to set the groundwork for like why and how and what you do to be able to be kind of a successful entrepreneur in the food and beverage space. Now let's get into the product, because I am excited to taste through some of these and give people some kind of tasting notes, what they can expect from this. You open this up, blasted in the face with that fresh, vibrant chili, like intensely chili. And it seems like, well, yeah, it's hot sauce. No. So many hot sauces. I'm picking up a lot of other characteristics that are not the pure amplified essence of chili. One of the things we know as fermenters, fermentation is a preservation method. A lot of times that's what you're thinking about. For me, it's an amplifier of flavor. Fermentation equals amplify flavor. That is exactly what it is. So this OG, the original gangster hot sauce, super vibrant, fresh, even though it's fermented. So talk about this product, and I am going to eat some of it.
Yeah, so we call it, the original gangster, the OG, because that's what happens when millennials get to have their own businesses. But it was this idea of my version of a red Sriracha, but done the Jojo way. Yeah, so
let's go.
Yeah. And when I'm nerding out on my kitchen, I'm thinking like, what do I need to make Sriracha? And I'm like, red chilies, because Sriracha is red. And so that's what I went for. I sourced peppers like red Fresnos and red jalapenos, and just got to work on this idea of a red Sriracha and try to dial in the different ingredient levels, fermentation time, consistency, and things like that.
Chili, salt, acid, sugar, and heat, right? These are the things that you're balancing out in that equation. I want to kind of touch on that a little bit so people can know what to expect. One, I don't know if you can really see, but you can see some seeds and stuff in there, right? You can see that there's pulpiness to it. It doesn't have that viscous and strained consistency that you might be familiar. So why was it important to represent it like this? Because this doesn't look like Sriracha. If what thinking of Sriracha is the Wang Feng is like, that's what people are thinking of. So why was it important for you to like represent it this way, kind of visually?
So that was sort of like, I wasn't thinking about what it would look like in the end exactly, just knew that I was like working with red chilies and wanted to ferment them. That's really a reflection of what happens when you stay out of the way. So we use the entire chili pepper in there, like even the crown and part of the stem. As long as those are all healthy and good, those are going into the Sriracha. So we're not milling or taking out anything else. And then similarly, we're not taking it with sugar or using emulsifiers like xanthan gums that you were talking about. And so you're not going to get that kind of sticky, almost coagulated type of feel. It's like just going to be like
toothpaste.
Yeah. And then, you're going to hit those little fleck of seed. And that's even part of like the skin. And I mean, we blast these things through our Vitamix. And it's hell on our blender, but we make it really work to get as smooth as possible. But that's just like the whole chili is in there.
I like the whole chili is so important. Every medium, if it's beer, and I'm talking to brewers about fruited beers, I don't want the fruit juice. I don't want the chili fruit puree. I want to taste the seeds and the stems and like the vines or the orchard or like the earth from whence it came. Like, I think those are the compelling things that you're tasting all of the complexity and nuance.
Yeah.
So it's not this one note of like face, melt, spicy, sweet, salty. And like, there's that. So I think that's important. Let me read this. This is a very compelling statement that you make here. Ingredients: chili peppers, vinegar, garlic, sea salt, coconut palm sugar. The end. Like the end. The amount of hot sauces that have 41 ingredients in them that I cannot pronounce or spell or have any idea what they are. It's like that. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ingredients in this, which I think is super compelling to me. Like, I know exactly what I'm getting. So I really, really appreciate that at a high level. And the fermentation, God, it just amplifies. It just tastes more like a chili pepper than if you ate just a chili pepper. I truly believe that. And that product represents it well. And it's won, a good food award, again, right? Again this year?
No, just our first good food award is this year.
Oh, I thought you had one before. Well, then congratulations on the first.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Wait a minute. Is this just the first year that you've entered? How is it possible that you've entered more than once and not won?
No, it was the first year that we entered. One of my good friends, Maura from Red Camper, who also is an awesome food producer in Denver, she was like, you should enter. You get the email, hot sauce contest, awards this, and it's just like never really been my thing.
Yeah.
And she's just like, this is kind of a different genre. And really what they're trying to do is to give awards that reflect both awesome flavor and awesome sourcing, sort of that ethical business at the same time, because normally it's one or the other. And so I dug in a little bit and learned more what those guys are about, and they're also out there fighting the good fight, and it was awesome. So we went out in San Francisco in January to receive our award. I got to shake hands with Michael Pollan and get my award from Alice Waters. So it was a great experience too, just to be with like other ballers in the small food, just making the most delicious things. Like my palate was like overwhelmed that weekend.
How do you keep your shit together when Alice Waters and Michael Pollan are just, right there? That's like I absolutely love that. And Mara's been on the show. Great guest. We're actually going to be collaborating on something. Well, watch out for that, people. Right. Mara, awesome. And they're boozy jams is what I know of them, but more and more, there's like even more unique and interesting stuff coming out of Red Camper. So definitely check them out. All right. Green. If I am going to Mexico, which I'm very sad that I have not gone to Mexico this year. But when I get
Let's just
back,
go there in our minds.
I know it. This will bring me there. Please bring me there, Jojo, please. And so if you say, do you want some red or some green on my tacos, on anything, I'm going to go to green first. That was a long way to get to. I am a big fan of the green side of hot sauce. So, and this I also really like because the fermented Pueblo chilies is very, again, sense of place. You're in Pueblo, Colorado. Like these are iconic ingredients here. So talk about this product a little bit.
Yeah, so that is a green chili sriracha made with Pueblo chilies. But what happened with that was when I was in Brooklyn, I was mostly using red peppers. And I was volunteering at Queens County Farm, and they grew all kinds of different beautiful peppers. And like towards the end of the season, they're like, harvest whatever you want, like just throwing me bags of like all different kinds of chilies. You know, they're yellow, they're green, they're red. And I just like start throwing them in the blender, start doing the fermentation thing. And then when I taste them, I'm like, oh my God, like this one's good. And like, this one's good. And I realized, you know, I'd not really considered the type of chili as being that much of a prominent piece of the flavor in the end. So I came back to Colorado 6 years ago, and you know now we're in the epicenter of chili growing in the United States. And you know the Pueblo chili is like a distinct trademarked chili from this part of the world, and it's like this big meaty chili that's really really great for roasting. So it's got like this thick cell wall, and it also works well for fermentation. We can do a nice long fermentation on that, and it's a completely different flavor profile. So the reds are a vine ripened chili, whereas you know the greens are technically not the ripe fruit. So they have this like bright tart flavor profile, whereas the reds are going to have more inherent sugars and have like a sweeter note to them.
I love it. Like I am such a big fan of that sharpness at the front end, because especially with food and like the richness, we just mentioned the tacos, or even anything that has an intensity of umami character to it, green is so good at like cutting through that, because that acid balance is like the key to like a properly balanced meal or a pairing, or like it's why green goes so good with beer. Like anything green chili with beer, I'm all in 100%. So I really appreciate that. And also the complexity, reds are amazing, except I feel like quite often reds kind of meet at a flavor point, you know, whereas green
interesting,
you always have way more difference. So tasting the complexity of chilies when they're green, I think you get a lot more nuance and characteristics out of it. And red, they kind of end up being a lot closer to each other than the difference between green. Do you find that, or am I just babbling?
No, I think that's awesome. When people taste green, a lot of the times they're like, is it tomatilla? Because it's sort of the closest thing that they know, where we've never really used tomatillas. Reds, I would put people in a blind taste test, like red Fresnos, red jalapenos, red Pueblos, and to see who could really tell that variance. And I think that probably is the higher sugar content, because sugar can mask, you know, flavor and heat. Whereas like the greens, I mean, I'll use different batches like Anaheims or Big Jims. Like they don't have quite that punch that I need that like Pueblos do. Or you can even like mix in a little bit of jalapeno. And yeah, so absolutely, they have like, they can go from anywhere from like a deep umami flavor to kind of like a celery-ish type of flavor.
Oh, Jojo, celery. Yes, I love that. That's absolutely the nuance and difference between red and green chilies, I think is key, which great segue into the unicorn, the most millennially branded one of your hot sauces. I love, what a geek you are. This is so good.
What could I say? And you know, it's funny because like we used to call it Christmas, because in New Mexico, and even in Colorado, people understand like Christmas, red and green chili. You know, you go to a you know, local food shop here, and they're like, yeah, you want red chili, green chili, or Christmas? And so then we're like, okay, great. We put this like Christmas label together at Christmas time, and we're so cute. We're talking about Christmas at Christmas, and then Christmas passes, like the holiday, and then everyone's like, hey, I have this expired sriracha. Like it's just this Christmas sriracha, and I'm like, no. So we had to like distinguish like what it was. And at one point I was just like, fuck it, it's unicorn sriracha. Like it's red chili, it's green chili, it's what I've got hanging around. Like it's my blend. I'm gonna like mix things together. Like it's the unicorn. And then like, you know, the whole like gay reference is kind of fun too. So I get to kind of play with that and put that out there.
Yes, I like it. You're staying on brand, on message, and just messing with people's heads while still just delivering such a good product. Very interesting. The green hits you on the front end, right? You get that acidity, that brightness. It really, really pops, and then it mellows and it's got a little bit shorter finish. The red is like gets right into your jowls and it has that umami, that intensity. You get a little bit of that sweetness and moves right to the back and you have a long finish. This one takes you on a weird roller coaster, which I'm totally into. It's like, ooh, there's acidity.
And it's different every time.
And that's exactly it too. Oh, you mean from batch to batch is different?
Absolutely.
See, Jojo, this is why I like you. That's very, very smart. Give me an idea. Is this 50-50? Is it kind of, how does that kind of break down as far as the red and green chilies?
So kind of like what you're saying between like the differences of the chilies is like, you know, I'm crazy about flavors. So I've been doing this OG and then I do this green. I'm like, oh, these are good. And then I'm holding a breakfast burrito one day and I'm like, a little bit of OG, a little bit of green, take a bite, a little bit of OG, a little bit of green. And I'm like, wait a second, I could make this. And so at first I threw together a 50-50 blend and I'm like, oh, cool. Like this is good. But now we have a little more finesse to it. So kind of like what you were saying, well, what kind of reds do we have? What kind of greens do we have? What other like random chili peppers are farmers growing? Like, cool, throw that in. So now it's a little bit different batch to batch. And I was
feeling it out based on the raw products themselves. That makes sense.
And I tend to go a little heavier on the green these days to sort of like hold up against that red. But I'll literally just hand mix them and give a little taste it after we first blend, just to like make sure that balance is right there.
You're speaking my language so much, because typically when I make tacos at the house, which I do quite often, and I always do it on like Monday or Wednesday, not Tuesday. and
Rebel.
I totally like, no, Taco Tuesday. That's for bougie white people and LeBron James. I'm going to do them on Monday, like a good kid from Southern California. Right. So what I do is I make 3 tacos for myself and I have 3 different hot sauces. It's always the rest of the tacos are the same. And then the hot sauce is what gives me that little bit of play, that little bit of, I want some of this and then some of that. And then I play this game like, what progression do you want? This one, that first, that one. And Betsy always makes fun of me. She's like, stop thinking so hard. Just eat your damn taco. I'm like, I'm sorry. I really need this to be this transcendent experience. And so I really love this because you know what's going on in our tacos next is 1, 2, and 3, and you've done the work. A lot of times I want 3 very different styles, and this one is super nice because I don't know, I feel like I could do that on 2 different tacos. You know what I mean? Like it has the complexity, and I feel like depending on how much you have or what bite you take, you're gonna get some red or some green. It very much felt like I was not tasting one different thing, but I was tasting some green and then some red. Do you find that? Like,
I love that. I love it.
This is so good. Jojo, what do we miss on? Where do people get your product? Carlos, throw the website up there. Let's make sure people go to the website, talk to people about how they can actually get their hands on this product. Should they just start a podcast, have you on, then you'll send them product? Is that what people do? Or
sure, yeah. If you go through that much trouble, I'll absolutely send you some sriracha. But if you don't do that, you can absolutely go to my website at jojosriracha.com. We have also introduced a 4-pack of our 6-ounce and our 16-ounce bottles, which are fairly new on Amazon. So right now you can get the OG on Amazon and a 4-pack of the small ones if you want to just try some flavors. And we're hoping to introduce more on that platform and also on our Jojo's Sriracha website. I love direct to consumer. I love being able to like make something and just ship it right to you. So I'm the one packing up those boxes and sending them off, at our local post office. So it's coming, directly from the Jojo.
I am such a big fan. That is the hustle, Jojo. That's the hustle. If any advice that we've been kind of throwing at you or things to think about or the way you position your brand, that's it right there. You better have the hustle and the humility, to be able to continue to like grind, because it's the hot sauce is the easy part. It's all the other things, all the little touches. And for you to pack those boxes with love, right? Go back to the name of this episode, Hot Sauce Love. Your company is called Love Hard Inc., right?
Yeah, Love Hard Incorporated. That's what it's about.
The real deal. Jojo, you're the real deal. I love it. The hot sauces are amazing. I am excited for taco night. I really appreciate it again, everybody. Jojo Collins, CEO of Jojo Sriracha, CEO, chef, packaging, marketing, everything. And oh, wait, point the camera down because you're working on something fun. We're just going to tease people. I was really excited to see this barrel from our friends at Breckenridge Distillery. What's going on there? Now we're talking.
Yeah, exactly. Little bourbon barrel fermentation.
Oh man, I am excited about that. We're gonna have to get our hands on that as soon as that's ready. So check out the website. Check out what Jojo Sriracha is up to. You will not be disappointed. If you are, you just don't like hot sauce, and that's okay. So appreciate it, Jojo. You have a great day. Thanks for being on the show. All right, cheers. All right, everybody. Jojo's Sriracha. Again, I'm really excited about this. Hot sauce, I'm a big fan. Sriracha, I'm a big, big fan. And anything fermented, it's something that's been a part of my life for 7-8 years now. I've been really focused on it, even launched and tested our own products before. It's a really tough market to be in as well. So I'm excited that they continue to have success. The Good Food Awards, amazing. So yeah, Best Served Podcast 206, Hot Sauce Love with Jojo Collins. You can tell a lot of love goes into these products. And very, very fascinated again for restaurants to be thinking about this channel, Best Served Good. We're going to be bringing these products to you because I want to talk about these products. I want to talk about entrepreneurship, and I want to taste these sauces, these ingredients, the different food products. Absolutely. One of the big things, the underlying things that I'm continue to poke and prod at you for is that if you are in a restaurant, which so many of our audience are in restaurants, you absolutely have to, not if you're able, have to sell your products retail. You need to be building your brand and you need to be creating additional revenue streams. So make sure that if you have a hot sauce, if you have a jam, if you have a spice mixture that you are producing, you need to be packaging that and selling it because you need the revenue and you also need the brand building. Those people will be looking at your brand and reminded of how awesome you are, and they'll tell their friends. That's what you need. All right. That's a great episode today. I am always fired up, pun intended, when I get to try hot sauces on this show. So thanks to Jojo, and appreciate you all for watching. Cheers.